Welcome back to another coverage of Fears To Fathom. I assume you're watching this video in conjunction with the other two I've made, so the intro is going to be a bit shorter. So far, I've explored the stories of Home Alone and Norwood Hitchhike. As of right now, only 3 tales remain. The next one in the lineup is Carson House, a story where you're paid to watch over somebody's house, which seems like an easy and almost relaxing job. But you quickly find out as the story progresses that one outside factor can turn the whole experience into a living nightmare. Your name is Noah Baker, an 18-year-old high school student who recently scored a little job to do over the weekend. You got this job thanks to your father, Walter. He is a realtor who often had very strong bonds with his clients. One particular client named Roy Carson was going to be away from his house for a few days. Roy is a COO of a media company, and he owns a good bit of expensive things. He needed somebody to watch over his house to make sure nothing bonkers happened while he was gone. Your dad says that Roy is offering $100 for somebody to do this job. So, having nothing interesting to do this weekend besides just finishing up your math homework, you decide it would be a good idea to follow up on this deal. Although, it seems like while your father drove you to Roy Carson's house, you had fallen asleep. You were awakened by his voice, indirectly letting you know that you have arrived. A few seconds ago, you were having a bizarre nightmare about a laundromat that had an infinite lane of drying machines, and somebody demanding that you give them bleach. So clearly, you're very fucking confused whenever you initially open your eyes. But you quickly come to after your dad questions if you're still willing to do this. Saying yes, he reminds you that the key to the house is in the backyard hidden under a fake rock. The last important detail he tells you is to keep the doors locked and to not answer the door for anybody. So, with no further instructions needed, you step out of the car and gaze at the house you'll be staying at for the next few days. Even though you watch your dad drive away, you still feel reassured about your safety, even Noah himself claiming that it was a nice neighborhood. You go around to the back of the house and search around for the fake rock. While you're back there, you do pick up on a few noticeable things, like that Roy Carson has a pet Rottweiler. Immediately I feel safe. You end up finding the fake rock next to the dog's old house. You take the key out of the hidden slot on the bottom and unlock the back door before walking inside. As you observe the inside of the house, you try to get a good feel for your surroundings. You find out that his house has a green screen film room, a spacious living area, a nice kitchen, a nice dining room, an upstairs section, and a horrifyingly low-lit basement. But before you could explore the other sections of the house, Noah says that he needs to use the restroom. After the pissing QuickTime event, you get a text from what is initially an anonymous contact, but it is quickly clarified to be Roy Carson thanking you for taking up the job offer, saying that he got your number from your father. He goes on to say that he would not have offered this job if it wasn't for his dog, Zeke, who at the time had just caught some sickness. If Roy didn't have a pet dog, he'd just leave the house unattended with no need for a sitter. But since Zeke is there, you need to look after him as well, something your father had not initially mentioned. Roy then says that it's around the time that Zeke eats dinner, so Noah gets right to it. But there is one dilemma. The dog food is stored in the basement. Roy thankfully lets Noah know that there is a flashlight in the storage room upstairs. While heading up there, I dipped into Roy's office and placed the math book down just to get it situated. Right afterwards, I found the storage room, grabbed the flashlight, and descended back into the basement. This time feeling a lot more confident about being able to see. Grabbing what I'm pretty sure is dog food and not a damn can of beans, I opened it and gave the dog food to Zeke. You tell Roy that you fed his dog, but he asks you for a favor. One that is a bit more complex than just feeding a dog. Your dad told him that you were good with computers, so he tells you that his computer has been acting odd, almost like it is infected with a virus of some sort. And considering that the entire security system of his house is connected to that one computer, it would be pretty bad if anything catastrophic happened. But regardless, you have to be the one to solve a very complex issue. So you make your way upstairs and sit down at Roy's computer desk in the office. He sends you the password to bypass the home screen, and you realize that he has a Windows XP. You open up the internet browser to search for an antivirus, but are shown a pop-up for a free trial antivirus software. I was extraordinarily careful and skeptical at first. I even went as far enough to search online for a better antivirus, but the engine was completely broken. So I eventually gave in and downloaded the free antivirus. It ran a scan of the whole system, and surprisingly, you discovered that Roy's computer had 4 different threats somewhere in his computer, each of which coming from a Trojan horse virus. Nasty shit. Thankfully, the antivirus ends up removing each of them. You tell Roy that he needs to be more careful on the web, but Roy blames his son for the whole ordeal. Whether he's telling the truth or not, I have no idea. Regardless, he says thanks and he'll leave you a tip when he gets back. Right after that conversation ends, a new one begins with a different contact on your phone. Noah's girlfriend, Evelyn Cooper. Sometime after Noah woke up and told her about that odd dream he had back in the car, it reminded her of a cooking show called Cooking with Jeffrey. She enthusiastically says that the rerun is on tonight, and that you two should watch it together via the phone. Sounds promising, but before you go through with that, it is at this point that you notice the true extent of Roy Carson's security system. He has a separate monitor that seemingly just shows a random camera in his house. If you select the icon iNet7 on the main monitor, it shows you a full view of the system. It cycles through 10 different cameras, all placed either inside or outside of the property. Every single one of them having their own night vision mode. Guy must be very protective over his expensive equipment. You brush it off as you make your way downstairs and humor Evelyn in watching that Cooking with Jeffrey show.
Hello. Welcome to Cooking with Jeffrey. I'm Jeffrey, and today we are cooking cat food.
A very fascinating display of human creativity. While you're sitting on the couch trying to comprehend what the hell is on TV right now, you take a look at your surroundings. In the moment of doing this, I quickly deduced something that immediately made me feel uneasy. Looking to your left, you get a view of 2 windows with the blinds just barely open. All things considered, this is not too bad. But when you look all the way to the right, just barely in the corner of your vision, you can see the staircase leading upstairs. Once I figured out I could look back that far, it was just me constantly checking back and forth to make sure nobody was watching me. Even though at this point of the story, nothing gave me any kind of indication that something would be happening this soon. But I knew deep down why I kept checking behind me. And it goes back to the very first episode of Fears To Fathom. If you recall, at one point of that story, you could see the intruder walking up the stairs while you were watching TV, thus making you, the player, very weary about little view shots like this, making you constantly paranoid if something like that would happen again. Thankfully, at least in my playthrough, I did not see anybody at the windows or the stairs. Noah continues watching this bizarre show until he is interrupted by yet another chore from Roy Carson. He needs us to go and grab groceries before midnight, telling Noah that the cash needed is in his nightstand. He then promptly sends a list of each and everything you need to get at the store. Noah quickly wraps up him and his girlfriend's little watching session of Cooking with Jeffrey, gets up from the couch, shuts off the TV, and heads to Roy's room to find the money. Shortly after, Roy tells us that you can use his son's bike in order to get to and from the store, and you do just that. Despite it being rather late at night, the grocery store still had a decent bit of customers, leaving you a bit reassured that at the very least you are around people instead of just being alone. You pick up a grocery basket and begin searching the store for all the items Roy wrote down. While doing this, you help an old woman with her groceries as well. Afterwards, you begin finding all the things and stacking them in your basket. You're a few items away from being able to check out and leave the store when suddenly you are stopped by two fellow classmates, Turner and Andy. To them, it felt like a coincidence that you came to the store at this specific time. Turner even starting the conversation with "speak of the devil." He immediately notes that Noah's, quote, girl was here a few minutes prior. Noah seems a bit confused. He knows Evelyn doesn't live close enough to justify her being at this exact grocery store, and if that were the case, she most certainly would have texted Noah. Turner then goes on to say that he's pretty sure he saw Kara, which causes Andy to interject and say that Noah and Kara are not dating anymore. So it wasn't Evelyn, it was instead Noah's ex-girlfriend. Turner had forgotten because, in his words, Noah hopped to that other chick so quick that he didn't even realize Noah and Kara had broken up. Then Andy tells you that Kara came in and bought a ton of cans, almost as if she was throwing a party of some sort. Turner completely fucking derails the conversation by saying that Kara gave off MILF energy. The conversation eventually winds around to Noah telling the two that he's staying at the Carson residence. Andy says he knows Roy's son, Alec. He's heard that Alec is a bit of a weirdo, especially after his parents separated. Another fact that we did not know about Roy that indirectly tells us why his son is not the one watching over his house. Shortly after this revelation, the conversation ends. Back in high school, Turner was the class clown. He was also very popular for his douchebag pranks he'd pull on other kids. Low-key, I didn't like the guy. I didn't hate him either. We just never shared the vibe. Well, shit, if I had known that, I probably wouldn't have told them where I was staying tonight. You finish getting the remainder of the groceries, purchase them with the money Roy lent you, and get back on the bike before heading back to the house. 24 minutes have passed since you left. Noah arrives back, parks the bike outside the garage, and puts the groceries on the kitchen table. Afterwards, he thought it would be a good time to finally catch up on his math homework. You head upstairs, piss again, and at the exact moment you sit down to begin your studying, you're hit with 5 messages from Andy, the kid at the grocery store. Confused and a bit worried about the burst of random urgency, you look at your phone and read what he sent you. His messages read, "Dude, you said you were at Carson's, right? You need to see this. Search up Roy Carson divorce on the internet right now." He told you about the divorce back at the store, but it just seemed like a haphazard comment, now suddenly sounding a bit more cautious. So, listening to your classmate, you search online for the phrase Roy Carson divorce, and a news article pops up. You find out that not only was the divorce a rather recent topic, but also that Roy Carson's now ex-wife was a very popular woman. The article is titled "Roy Carson, co-founder of BN Media, allegedly receiving death threats from the angry fans of his ex-wife." It then goes on to say, "It's not unusual for an audience to be nosy about some of the celebrity..." Okay, how is there already 2 spelling errors? Celebrities' personal matters, but sometimes it is just too overbearing. We see something similar with the case of Roy Carson, the COO and co-founder of BN Media. After his very public breakup and divorce with his wife, former actress Alyssa Brown Carson has allegedly been receiving death threats from the fans of Alyssa Brown for the rumored infidelity that underwent within the relationship. The article continues by showing a picture of Roy Carson's house with a giant red arrow pointing to a picture of his face, which may look super silly, but I would not put it past media coverage to damn near have his whole fucking address just on the front page. The article continues by saying, "Sources say Roy Carson has had people knocking on his door to confront him. Alyssa hasn't been very vocal about the..." You hear the doorbell ring just mere seconds after reading the line about strangers trying to confront Roy. Quickly checking over the security cameras, you look at camera 10, the front door, and see a man dressed in a delivery outfit dropping off a pizza. But considering what we just read, for all we know this could be a setup. You cautiously get out of your seat, exit the office, and walk downstairs. You try to get a closer look at the person outside, but I noticed that it felt like no matter how I positioned myself at the windows, I couldn't really make out any of the supposed delivery person's facial features. It's like they were perfectly blocked. You recall your father telling you to not answer the door for anybody, but regardless, Noah confidently walks up to the front door and asks who it is. The person responds by saying it's a medium-sized pizza delivery. You try telling him you did not order any pizza and that he must have gotten the wrong address, but the man is relentless, going so far as to read you back the exact address. He then goes on to say that it was ordered under the name Roy Carson. Something about that really felt off to me. The way he paused and almost stuttered, and then ends the sentence on a question mark, almost as if he is reading straight from the news article we had just read. If you try to leave, he stays at the door and keeps ringing the doorbell, telling you to please open the door. We have seen this exact scenario before in both of the previous episodes, where someone is telling you to open the door or you think someone you trust is behind the door, you open it, and then you die. But as it seems, the story would not progress until It's literally just a pizza guy. Nothing more, nothing less. I've seen so many players get to this point and almost completely refuse to open the door because of what we've gone through previously, only for this scenario to be a completely normal interaction. If anything, to the pizza guy, you probably seem like a paranoid freak. But this still doesn't answer who ordered the pizza to the house. Regardless, he hands you the pizza, implying it's already been paid for in advance. The only thing out of the ordinary about this interaction is that the man asks if he can stay around until the rain clears up. But we're pretty much forced to tell him no, and when we do, he swiftly gets back into his car and drives away. We take the pizza inside, and mere moments later we get a text from Roy, and he pretty much confirms that it was him that ordered the pizza for us, just as a little thank you for completing all the chores. Well, that was awful nice of him. Though it wouldn't hurt to tell us that a pizza guy's coming in the middle of the night. As you begin to eat the pizza, you continue watching what I can only describe as what Adult Swim looks like past 2 a.m. Captivated by the sheer creativity of humanity, you hear the front door ring once again. You stand up from the couch, walk over, and ask who's there. But unlike with the pizza guy, there's no response. Noah asks again, but still, nothing. It truly seemed like nobody was there. You don't know what to make of it. I mean, I kind of do. Giving a flower a bouquet of flowers is like if I gave you a box of disembodied limbs. You couldn't find a valid reason as to why flowers would appear at Roy's doorstep, but just in case, you go up into his office and leave the flowers there. But just as you're heading to put the flowers down, your phone buzzes, and a new message from an unknown contact pops up. You glance down at your phone, and the messages read,
"Hey, how are you? What did you have for dinner?"
You assume it's just someone who has the wrong number. Although the timing is a little bit creepy. I mean, we just finished eating. Noah even points out that it was strange, but dismisses it by calling it a coincidence. You put the flowers down in Roy's office and begin to once again attempt to work on your math assignments in peace. This time you succeed with no interruptions. That was until many hours later. Noah's focus is completely shattered when the power to the entire house is suddenly shut off. The only thing that's still lit up in the room is an alarm clock, mainly because the power shut off and it now has to rely on its own battery, which is either low or dead. Right as you're going to get up and find out how to turn the power back on, you receive a notification that 5 unread messages are from that same unknown contact. Looking at the chat log, you can see that those messages were sent to you during the hours you were working. The messages range from asking if Noah is alone, to why he's ignoring them, to saying something a bit more personal, saying that they don't need Noah and that Todd is so much hotter anyways. It would make you believe that your ex had somehow found your number despite you two being separated and done with. But something about this was strange to Noah, and he immediately puts what he believes is 2 and 2 together, and pins all of this bizarre shit happening on Turner, the class clown we met back at the grocery store. Noah says he believes this is another prank by the guy, either meaning the cryptic messages are his first prank, or perhaps that Turner has pranked Noah in the past. He justifies his speculation by saying that Turner and Andy were the only people besides Roy and Noah's father who knew he was house sitting at this exact location. Noah goes to exit the office to try and turn the power back on, but he's met with complete darkness. I must have misplaced that flashlight earlier because for the life of me, I could not find it anywhere. So I was forced to track my way through the house in almost pitch black lighting. One thing you can't ignore is that Zeke is outside going ballistic about something. Noah cautiously walks down the stairs, exits out the back door, and searches around trying to find the electrical panel. But just then, he spots Zeke, barking at the breaker box, almost as if someone had been there recently. You check up on Zeke, and Noah notes that he was being very weird. Regardless, Noah approaches the panel and switches the power back on. I could tell that someone had cut the power off from outside. It had to be Turner. He was really starting to piss me off now. Noah angrily storms back inside the house before he is met with once again another text from the anonymous contact, who at this point Noah thinks is Turner impersonating his ex. He tells him to knock that shit off and that it isn't funny. But just then, Noah hears what sounds like floorboards creaking in the distance, but Noah brushes it off entirely, insisting that he must finish up the rest of his math work. If you want a 4.0 GPA, you need to work on math homework while your fucking house is being broken into. You sit back down in the office and try to get engrossed back into your work. More creaking floorboards can be heard, a sound we did not hear whenever we were previously studying, so it can't really be chalked up to the house settling, but alas, Noah disregards it. But he does say that he had a gut feeling about the situation. He even admits in hindsight that his actions sound dumb, but it's simply put that at the time he did not want to overthink anything. Noah tries once again to get back into his work. Suddenly, a loud click and humming noise comes from downstairs. Among other sounds, but I guess Noah didn't notice those. Noah, confused on where this is coming from, checks the security cameras and sees that the stove in the kitchen is now on, and you knew for a fact that you did not touch that oven. Furthermore, if you check the camera in the green screen room, you can see a bunch of equipment has been knocked over. Noah is now understandably enraged by Turner's stupid pranks. Not wanting the house to burn down, Noah rushes downstairs and shuts the oven off. Immediately after doing so, he goes to contact Turner, but he doesn't have his number. Maybe he thought Turner was sending him those cryptic messages through a number that was not his own. So he does the next best thing and contacts the last person he saw with Turner, Andy. Can you send me Turner's contact? Ask him to quit messing. He's messing with what? He's been snooping around the house. This is not cool. Dude, he's at my place right now. It's at this point you realize one of the kitchen knives is now missing from the holster. Everything that's been happening tonight is much more than just a prank. Noah's best idea was to head back upstairs and be glued to the security monitors. Again, in hindsight, he said he should have called the cops, but yet in the heat of the moment, that thought did not even come into play. You check the security cameras and you realize the back door is now open, right next to the room you were just in. There was no doubting it. Someone was in the house. Just then, you hear the same sound of floorboards creaking. Noah quickly checks the security cam footage and he can't believe his own eyes. Noah's ex-girlfriend, Kara, is seen stalking around the house with a knife in hand. Noah is paralyzed with fear as Kara goes from room to room trying to figure out which one he is in. And eventually, she finds him.
Noah?
She goes on to manically say that she misses you and that you two can make their relationship work. You try to defuse the situation the best you can, but Kara brings up that Noah treated her like shit, even claiming that Noah dumped Kara so that he could be with Evelyn. You tell her that she needs to leave right now, and in response, she starts screaming that you two deserve a second chance. Noah drops the act and confidently tells her that she can and most certainly will be turned into the cops for this manic behavior. She then goes quiet for a moment before saying that if you try to call the cops, she will kill both you and Evelyn. You don't have much time to act. You search the whole office for anywhere to hide, but you can't find anything. With no other options left, in a swift moment, you dash out of the office and into the laundry room across the hall. Now, as soon as you step foot in that laundry room, you notice that the audio detector is back once again. And just like with Norwood Hitchhike, if you want to live through this, you need to be quiet in real life.
Noah.
For just a moment, Kara is both out of sight and her back is turned. You know your only chance of escape is now.
Noah.
Noah runs right out the front door and all the way down the block. His dad eventually catches word of what happened and proceeds to call the cops. By the time dispatch arrived, Kara was already long gone. But thankfully, due to her and Noah's previous connection, he knew where she lived. He then goes on to give a brief synopsis of Kara, telling us that they met on a dating site and that Kara was 3 years older than him. I guess that's where the MILF energy came from. But regardless, they began to date. 2 months into their relationship, she began to do hard drugs. Noah tried to intervene and get her the help she so desperately needed, but she claimed that Noah doing this was a manipulation tactic, thinking that he was just trying to change who she really was. It pained Noah to see his girlfriend go through this, but eventually, enough was enough and he had to cut ties with her for his own good, telling her to leave and never talk to him again. Once confronted by the cops, Kara tried to convince them that she did nothing wrong, but thankfully, Roy Carson's security system was not only for active surveillance, but was also for live recording. The cops went and reviewed the whole thing, from the moment she broke into the house to the second she grabbed the knife and terrorized Noah. It was also noted that during the situation, Kara was under the very same drugs Noah tried to get her away from, alongside some alcohol as well. Horrifyingly, Noah says that after reviewing the entire scenario with the police, they found that nothing was stolen from Roy Carson's house, meaning Kara's only intention was to take Noah's life that night. Thankfully, the story ends with Noah saying that Kara was sentenced for a long time. Well, that was Carson House, a story that, oddly enough, is more common than one would think. Not this exact retelling per se, but rather the main antagonist being a commonly found thing in thousands of traumatic events. Think about it, how many times have you heard a horror story where a disgruntled ex is doing some crazy shit? It happens all over the place, and I think the most disturbing part of it all is after you hear these stories, you will quickly realize that if you are dating somebody, there is little to no 100% foolproof way to know for certain the person that you're with is trustworthy or not crazy. You see, I think Noah's story goes to show that even those we love or used to love can turn into monsters. Noah mentioned his ex diving into substance abuse, but only after 2 months into their relationship, which could imply that before that stuff started happening, they had something genuinely good going for themselves, only for Kara to devolve into something Noah would be terrified of. To an extent, most people are prepared for whenever bad stuff happens to them. Home invasions, some people own firearms. When they're out in public, some people might own a pocket knife, pepper spray, or a taser, or they could also still carry the gun. But truly, how prepared can you be for somebody that you used to love attempting to take your life? But something about this story was odd to me on my first playthrough. I couldn't help but continue to ask the question of how did Kara know we were at Roy Carson's house? Furthermore, how did she get inside? I kept wondering to myself about these things so much to where I played the game again to see if I could spot anything. And oh boy did I spot some fucking things. Just like with that man in Norwood Hitchhike, Kara had been following you around for quite a long time. Whenever Noah initially goes to the grocery store, you can just barely see a woman standing out front. But the mere second you get closer to the entrance, she quickly leaves. I'm sure you've already guessed it, but upon closer look, we can see that this is Kara. She spotted Noah whenever he initially came down this road, but did not approach him. Instead, she quickly walks back to her car and seemingly drives away. Afterwards, you do not see her again until you exit the store. You might notice that right next to the grocery store there is a little parking lot. And you might also notice that after you leave the store, Kara's car is now parked there, just idling, waiting for Noah to leave the store. So in the story, whenever Noah gets all the groceries and heads back to Roy Carson's house, he does not know that Kara had been watching him, which makes him accidentally lead Kara all the way back to where he was staying. The first thing she does is leave those flowers at the doorstep. We can confirm that she did this because the moment she rings the doorbell, if you run upstairs and check the security camera, you can catch Kara walking away from the front door and into the backyard. Why Zeke Nick didn't rip this woman apart could be chalked up to Roy saying that he was sick and not feeling well. Kara must have lurked near or around the property for hours, texting Noah those ominous messages and trying to find a way inside of the house. Eventually, she must have realized that cutting off the power would be a surefire way to lure Noah outside. And sure enough, right as she cuts off the power, Noah waltzes right outside and tries to fix it. Now, I want to note that when we do go to check the power, we do see a car parked across the street that was not there previously. I'm like 90% sure it's her car. As Noah goes to fix the power, he forgets to lock the door behind him. This gives Kara an opportunity to slip inside undetected, hence why we hear creaking floorboards after coming back inside. Alongside this, you can see that the entrance to the green screen room forcefully slams shut right when you walk inside. Turns out that Kara was hiding in that room waiting for Noah to go in there, but alas, he doesn't. Shortly after this, she notices that Noah went back upstairs, but she cannot tell what room he went into. It's at this point she stumbles out of the green screen room, knocking over a few things in the process, and snags a knife from the kitchen, before trying once again to lure him out, this time by turning the stove on. Before heading down, Noah checks the cameras and you can see Kara walking away and past the kitchen window. Noah comes downstairs, turns off the stove, and up until this point only believed that Turner was the culprit of all of this. After Noah swiftly gets back up to the office, I'd imagine that Kara probably got pissed off knowing that she missed this opportunity. So to make sure there are no more mistakes, she walks back inside and searches the whole house for him. Now, there is one thing I did not mention earlier that truly saved Noah's life. You see, Kara figured out what room Noah was in, but the entrance she was trying to get in at had a bookshelf covering it. But in her drunken state, she must have thought that was the main entrance to the office, evident by her banging on the door and trying relentlessly to open it. This one miscalculation was enough to buy Noah time to run into the laundry room and hide until he escaped, meaning that if that door was not there or actually worked, we would not be getting a first-person retelling of this event. Considering that at the time of this story submission, this event happened a decade ago, and Noah is still able to tell this story in a very detailed manner, going so far as to say that it felt like it happened yesterday, I could not imagine the distress, turmoil, and trauma this event had on his life. I would not blame him if he had trust issues for people he fell in love with, but at the end of the day, thankfully, similarly to all of the previous people who have shared their story, they all lived to tell the tale. With currently 2 stories left to cover and another one in the making, I am intrigued to see what other horrifying true stories will be covered by this series. I guess we will have to wait and see. Thank you all for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to show support by leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. You know the deal. If I missed anything, let me know, and if you have an interesting take on the story, feel free to share. It's been me, Wazerbite, and I will see all of you in the next video.